Okay. Hello everyone. As I said, it is morning where I am. It's 11 a.m., but good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Marcella, and we are going to get started with introduction to AI images. Um, we are recording this, so it will be on a YouTube channel, and let's get started. I will turn my camera off just so that it doesn't distract me while I'm talking. And then we can put it back on if you want at the end to have more discussion, talk about things, etc. I have None of you can unmute yourselves. So if you have questions, put them in the chat and I'll get to them. The way I like to do is if you have a question that it's like procedural, like about what we're doing, then please put it right away. If not, maybe if you can leave it more towards the end so that I don't get distracted. Okay, so I'm gonna turn my camera off and we are going to get started. So this is introduction to AI images. My name is Marcella. I am a librarian at McGill University, and I'm also the coordinator of the Digital Scholarship Hub. And you can find us, there's our email address, and then you can also find me if you're interested on X and Blue Sky, and it's at Marcy's Wisdom. If you have met me before, you know where to find me too. And before we start, I just want to have like a little disclaimer that this workshop will introduce some tools to demonstrate the potential of AI in image generation and analysis. But just because I'm including them, it doesn't mean that McGill endorses them. If you are a McGill person and you want more information on McGill's policies, there's 2 links. I will be sharing the slides after the workshop, so you'll have everything, but just know that those 2 policies for AI in research and AI in teaching are available for you to check. And today we're going to be looking at a variety of tools, but we will not have everything in there. So I wanted to share with you, let me just, I'm going to share with you a guide. Also, could you let me know if now that I switch, because I'm usually working on 2 screens and today I'm only on 1 screen, if now that I switch tabs, you can see my new tab. If you can let me know if that's the case, that'd be awesome. Perfect, lovely. I'm going to put the link in the chat. This is a guide that I created about AI images. So all the tools that we talk about today will be linked here, as well as some other things that for time reasons we're just not able to include. I don't like that link that it gave you. I'm going to give you a nicer link. There we go. So just know that you can access it right there. And then let's go back here. I also want to sort of like do a little plug that if you are interested in AI images, next week is Love Data Week, which is this huge event that we put on every year. We have a lot of workshops and talks, and our sort of like our keynote speaker this year is Eric Salvaggio, who did a lot of work on AI images, and he's sort of like his thesis, and we're going to talk more about this, is that AI images are data visualizations. So if you are interested, we're having that talk next Wednesday. So I'm just going to share the link to our Love Data Week programming, should you be interested in attending. And you can see all the workshops that we have. We have like a really nice slate of activities for next week. So I hope that we'll see you there as well. Okay, so now I've done all my disclaimers, so we are gonna get started. It's a pretty packed agenda for today. Some of it will be more practical, some will be more theoretical, but the idea is to have an intro to AI images today. So we're gonna start talking a little bit about computer vision, which is a field of artificial intelligence, but it is a field that deals with images, videos, and other visual medium or other visual media, and it allows us to derive information from those different types of media. Some of the key aspects of computer vision are image processing, so things that allow us to manipulate images, feature extraction, things that allow us to identify important parts of an image, object detection, which is locating and identifying objects within an image or a video. So I'll show you more. We'll talk more about object detection in a little bit, but it's about, like those security cameras that can tell you this is a car, this is a person, those kinds of things. We have image classification, which is assigning a label to an image based on the content, and segmentation, which is when we divide an image into different parts or different segments to analyze it. So if you want to know more about how computer vision works, I have a really good video on that guide that I gave you. Just because it's two things. Number one, it's quite long to explain. And number two, this is not an area that I am an expert on, so I'd rather have you hear it from the experts. But basically, the way computer vision or neural networks and images works is that the image goes through all these filters that recognize patterns in the image, and then it's able to identify what it is. And sort of like going forward, we also have, within computer vision, we have sort of like an area which is image generation. So when we talk about computer vision, we can talk about image analysis or image generation, and there are a few ways in which like they intersect. So we have something called GANs, or generative adversarial. Also, that's a hard word for me. Generative adversarial networks, which are used to create realistic images from random noise or inputs. It is something that's used to generate human faces or artwork or even entire images. We have image inpainting, which we are going to look into today as well. That allows us to fill parts of an image that are missing. So we use it a lot for, I feel like I'm spoiling my content, but we use it a lot for old art or old photographs. We have styles transfer, which is when we take one style and apply it to a different style. So for example, we take a painting and then we apply it to a photograph so that the photograph will look more like the painting. We have text to image generation, which is, I think, what most people, like most of us, are familiar with, which is when we write text and then to generate an image on something like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or many of the other tools that we have. And then we have image synthesis, which is creating new images from scratch. So that's a little bit of like more the theoretical part. Then we're going to have a little more fun, I think, today, hopefully. So let's talk a little bit about image creation. Now, for AI image generation, we kind of like need two things. We need a model and we need data sets. So for the models, we have a variety of models. I have just 4 here. There are others, but these 4 are like what I think are some of the more popular ones or that you may have heard of. So Stable Diffusion is a model that's very widely used. If you use Microsoft Copilot, it uses Stable Diffusion. If you use ChatGPT, then or you've used DALL-E, which is another one. They all say that they're the best at what they do. Midjourney is really good for artistic and stylized images. The only thing is for Copilot and ChatGPT, it's actually free. Midjourney you have to pay to use. And something that's a little bit newer that just came out, or not, it didn't just come out, but I just learned about it. It's Flux One, which is really good at really realistic photographs. Depending on, like, there's a few tools that use the model, like this model. I'm going to share one later, or we're going to look into one that is actually free to use, or like it has a limited free trial. Other places you have to pay for it. But the images are very realistic. And then we have a variety of data sets. These are just 3 that are examples, like there are more. One that's very popular and that you see in a lot of these tools are the Lion 5B, which is one of the largest open. It has over 5 billion images. And it's what's used for Stable Diffusion. For example, the Microsoft Copilot. They have the common objects and context. That's 330,000 images. with annotations. There's one from Flickr. So you have a variety of models and data sets. And I think like they all have their strengths and they all have their weaknesses. But one thing that we always want to think about when we're thinking about AI image generation is that a model is only as good as its training data. So the model by itself is good, but depending on what data it's been trained is what we are going to see when we ask the image to create. When we ask the model to create an image. So one thing that we sometimes don't think about is what kind of images are included in the model. So we mentioned before, or I mentioned before, that the Lion 5B is one of the most popular models, one of the most popular data sets that are used. And if I ask you to think in your head what kind of images are there, of course, it's 5 billion, like it's a lot of images, but we might tend to think about photographs, and we might tend to think about artwork, and basically the way they did the Lion data set is they just scrapped all the images from the internet, which means that yes, you will have things like artwork and you have things that are like, I don't know, good photographs, but I'm going to show you two other things that you can find in that Lion 5 data set. So yes, we have some New Yorker covers, book covers, memes. We've got different product pictures that you can find in different stores. We have watermarked images. So there's so much that it might not necessarily be about what we think is there. I don't like this, probably part of like a sign or a banner or something like that. So it's a really varied array of images. And that might skew what we get. So we're gonna play a little game now, which is I use this with the Crea.ai, Crea.ai, which is what uses Flux. I'm just gonna put the link here so that you have it. You don't have to go there. I want to play a little game now ourselves. Sorry, I just set that to the wrong person. There we go. But I'm going to show you images that I created with Crea. And I want you to write in the chat what you think the prompt was. Okay? Sorry, I see someone can't see the link, and that is because I sent it to the same person twice. Okay, there we go. Now it's good. It should be good now. Okay, so we're gonna play this game. I'm gonna show you a set of images. You're gonna tell me what prompts did I use. Okay, so feel free to write in the chat what's my prompt. And my prompt was like a handful of words. So it wasn't a detailed prompt. It was something very basic. And there are no wrong answers. I love this. I love the love healthcare relationships because I like, especially this one, like the one on the far right, that looks just like, what is this, Grey's Anatomy? But no, I wrote for this one, I did a doctor and a nurse. And something that I noticed is that for many of them, like, I guess like we can't know exactly, but if we think that it's doctors who are what lab coats, what are the two sort of supposed nurses women? Let's go to another example. So for these two, what was the one for, and for this one, it's like a single, like it's just like a single, it's not a single word, it's two words for each, but what do you think that I wrote for each of this? Let's see. Okay. So we have college students / professor. We have students in classroom and professor. We have students studying classroom / professor headshot. teacher and students, we're gonna come closer. Because for this one, we have a teacher, and let's look at, they're all women. And then for this one, I did a professor. Now, we do have languages where the like words are gendered. So if I say in Spanish, for example, profesor or profesora, it would be different, right? But in this case, a professor can be anyone. We'll do one last one just to show you the biases in the data set. I also want to point out that none of the professors are people of color, just to show that. So what's this one? Yes, in some sense, it's really realistic. Yes, it's a good. This is the flux model with using Crea. Very good, Marika. You are awesome. And yes, it's librarian and CEO. Yes. Um, again, we see quite uniform pictures. We see majority of women librarians, which kind of makes sense in terms of like what we see in the field. But people can be CEOs as well. Like women can be CEOs as well. And people of color can be CEOs as well. So we don't see it. So as we can see, like any biases that we have in society, we sort of like translated into those into those data sets. They're reflected in those data sets, and then those will be reflected in the images that we get because this is what the model learned. So that's something that we need to be careful of. And we also need to think about when we work with prompts. So we're going to talk about now about, maybe I'm lying. Yes, we're going to talk about creating an image. So I'm going to have you do a little exercise. I'm making you work, I know. So what we are going to do right now is I'm going to ask you to use whatever tool you want. So you can use Microsoft Copilot, you can use ChatGPT, or you can use Crea. It's up to you. And then I want you the tool to create an image of Montreal. You will write your prompt in whichever way you want to write it. And then you are going to copy and paste it into a link that I'm going to put here. This is not the link that I want you to put. Sorry, I have like a list of links and I'm just like trying to manage them all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing while you do this exercise because I want to make sure that whatever goes into that document is appropriate. And then once we're done, I'm going to share the document with everyone. But in the meantime, I'm just going to not share for like a second. So just remember, you are going to go to Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, or Crea. You're going to ask the tool to create an image of Montreal, and then I want you to copy and paste the result, like one of those images, into the link that I just provided, which will take you to a Google Doc. And I'm going to stop sharing for just a little bit. And then we are going to see what happens. And while you do this, someone asked if there's a limit of how many images you can generate for free. For Korea, yes, there is a limit. I think it's by day. It has to do with how much data you use. So that should give you an idea. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I've been talking for like the longest time. I apologize for this. This is very embarrassing. Um, okay, so I'm gonna go back and do everything I said. And now I can see when, because I kept asking you to paste things in the Google Doc and people were just putting and people were not hearing. This is so embarrassing. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying is that we can see a variety of images that are not necessarily all the same. So here we can see that we have an image that it's sort of like that fine line between drawing and photograph that a lot of the tools use. That is from the Mount Royal, like from Mount Royal. Again, here we see McGill. We have a view of the skyline, which I find and this is very realistic. Oh, someone asked for an old-timey image of Montreal. I don't know if we ever had a tram here, I have to say. Some realistic images of the winter, the old port, more like sort of like rendered images. This looks very much like a New Yorker image. We do not have a mountain there. So as you can see, we get a lot of different things depending on what we ask for. And sometimes even if we ask the same thing, we might not get what we want. So let's talk a little bit about how can we get what we want from these kinds of tools. And I see here someone says that we did have streetcars. That's wonderful to know. So let's talk about writing a good image prompt. So the first thing that we have to think about is this idea that AI models, in a way, they work as translators. So we're translating text from text to image. And that's what they're doing. So what do we need to know when we write a good prompt? The first one is that prompts should be specific and detailed. So if I just say a dog, I could get any image of a dog. But if I say a fluffy, large, black and white dog, I might get the dog that I have here on the left, for example. We want to use at least 6 descriptive words. So think about that and think that prepositions and articles don't count. So those words, the system is just not reading them. We want at least 6 descriptive words about what we want. And we want to include as many of the following components as possible. So what image type? Is it a painting? Is it a rendering? Is it a photograph? Is it a realistic painting? So number one, we want to talk about what the image type. Then we want to know who is in our image, right? Is it a dog? Is it a person? Is it a blonde person? Is this a black and white dog? So we want to make sure that we fully fledge our subjects if we have them. Or the city or the object. We want to put context. If it's someone doing something, we want to know what they're doing. More details about what's going on in the image. Is there specific lighting that we want? You know, a lot of times lighting can sort of like help us infer mood. So is it daylight? Is it indoor light? Is it candlelight? Is it neon lighting? That will define what we want. If you want to photograph, maybe we want to think about the framing. So is it a tight shot? Is it a wide shot, for example? Is it a portrait? Is it up close? Then the lens and the camera, if we're talking about pictures. So that could be, if you know about it, then you could include it. And then finally, what style do we want? So for example, do I want it in the style of a specific painting? Do I want it in the style of manga? Do I want it in the style of, I don't know, cyberpunk? We can decide. And one thing that's important to know is that this is a very iterative process. So we're going to do things and then we're going to redo them every single time, because we write a prompt, we might not get what we want. We rewrite that prompt to get what we need. Okay, so now that we've created images, we're going to talk a little bit about image analysis and manipulation, which is when we use AI to work with images as opposed to create images. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is image description, which is when we uploaded image to one of these tools, and they give us a description of the image that we have. Depending on the image, they will just describe what's in the image, or they will give you more context or even offer analysis. I find this tool, this extremely useful for writing alt text. So when I work on guides, like the one I showed, or when I go with anything that has images, I find it really useful for writing that alt text. And two tools for this are Claude.ai and ChatGPT. You may be asking if you're a McGill person, also if you're a McGill person, what about Microsoft Copilot? Microsoft Copilot used to have this ability, and it doesn't anymore. So when you go to upload, it kind of gaslights you a little bit, because when you go to upload a file, it'll tell you that it can't read that file. Actually, it won't even show it to you in like the window that shows you the files that you could upload. And then it'll give you a list of things, a list of file formats, and you do have image formats, but then you can't do it. It's not like I researched this at this moment. Microsoft Copilot cannot do it. So you have Claude.ai and ChatGPT. I'm going to show you Claude just because like ChatGPT you may be more familiar with. Like many of these tools, there's a free version, there's a paid version. We're going to look at the free one. So I'm just going to open Claude, which I have open already here. And basically what you do with Claude is if you are I'm here. Now, one thing to know is that you see a camera. We don't want to use the camera. We actually want to use the file, because the camera wants to take a screenshot, and that's not what we want. You want to create a to add an image. I'm just going to share with you the link to Claude, just so you can do it if you want. You can take a look at what we're doing. Perfect. So I'm going to show you one that I already created just to save time. And sometimes, I tell you, oh, I'm too busy. I can't do this right now. So this is actually, it's funny because this is an image that I created with Microsoft Copilot. And I had asked for a little girl in a high chair in front of a birthday cake in the style of Degas, like the painting. So I just added the image, and then I said, describe this image, and he gave me a description of the image. So the image shows a young girl with long hair and pigtails wearing a pink lace dress. She's sitting in front of a colorful board background and appears to be looking at a birthday cake with only one lit candle in front of her. The girl has a serious contemplative expression on her face. But I'll show you what happens when I give another kind of image. So I've taught with images for a while, and I have this data set of academic conference memes. Let me just show it to you. So this is a meme from the Ever Given, which was that ship that was sort of like stuck in the Suez Canal. And then the big ship says the conference paper abstract, and then the actual conference paper is like this little tractor next to it. So when I uploaded and I asked it to describe the image, not only did it give me a description of the image, but it also put the image in context. So if I scroll down here, it says the joke plays on the common academic experience where paper abstracts can be very grand and ambitious in their scope and claims, while the actual paper content may be more modest in comparison. The stark difference between the enormous ship and the small bulldozer perfectly illustrates, sorry, I said tractor, it's a bulldozer, illustrates this humorous discontent. And then it tells me where the image is from. And then I ask it again to create alt text, and it did it for me. So depending what, this might be a useful tool. As I said, I love this for to create alt text, and I use it all the time to create alt text. ChatGPT can also do it. I'll show you a quick example. I think it's this one over here, where I had to upload an image, you can see it, but it was a security camera image. And then it just described what it is. If you want to know what this image is, if you go to the guide that I shared in the beginning, there's an image of a garage with 2 toy cars, and that's what that image is, which a friend of mine gave me from her garage. Okay, and then I have another example here. Once I share the slides with you, you can actually take a look at it. So let's talk about object detection. So object detection is when we have an image and we ask AI to identify the objects in this image. Now, couple of things that I say is like there's a mix of Spanish and English in this image because I use a tool that was created by someone who speaks Spanish. Now, one thing about object detection is that while we can use it like for examples like this, it's usually like in order to use it, you need to be a developer or you need to know coding because you need to code things. So there are ways to do it, but there's no like easy out of the box tools like we've been looking at so far. So that's why we don't have an example. If you are interested in testing this out, again, in the guide that I shared, there is an example of this tool that I use. This is actually a tool that they built to do image sonification. So the system, like the code that is in there, will first describe the image and identify objects, and then we'll create sound from that. But should you want to, there's a link there, the link to this, and there's also instruction on how to use this tool. Okay, so but again, it identified the different contents of my image. Again, you can also see it again with security cameras. They will do it as well. Like a lot of them, if you have a house and you have one, you'll see that it'll tell you this is 91% a person, things like that. Okay, this is one of my favorites. It's called image inpainting, and I spoiled it before a little bit. I mentioned that it is when you have an image that's missing a piece, and you use inpainting to kind of fill out what's missing. So we see it a lot in like restoration of old photos, object removal, so taking things out. So for a lot of times, I know that I'll edit pictures to take I know if I have, there's a lot of people behind me just to take a few out. And then for image editing, so I have a little challenge for you. I want you to tell me in the chat what part of the image do you think I didn't actually, someone else I know did. What part of the image was fixed with inpainting? While you think about it, I'll tell a little bit about this particular image. This is a fresco that they found in Italy that they don't know really anything about it. And that the person who shared this image with me and the group that was working with me at the time, they were trying to find more about it because they thought it was maybe Lorenzo Monaco, but they weren't sure. So let's see what it says here. Okay. So it said the corner, someone is saying the top left, someone is saying Jesus's right arm, feet. Someone says the bottom figures. Is it all the bottom figures? Is it just a few of them? Feet. Yeah, the feet look weird. I just realized that the feet look weird. Okay. Let's take a look. So this is the original image. So yeah, so some people who said the feet and then the bottom figures, these two bottom figures, were created. But if we look at the image, like again, it's not perfect, but it is pretty realistic. And I'll show you, let's go to the guide. And I have one that I created here where I just asked to add a hair. The tool is actually quite nifty. Again, you have the link in the guide should you want it. But basically you just upload an image, you write your prompt, and then it will spit the image for you. So kind of like a nice nifty tool and fun to play with. And again, slightly off, yes. But one of the things that we were really sort of like surprised by when he did it is that this painting is sort of interesting because it's sort of a painting of the crucifixion. But the figures are sitting, they're not standing, and apparently that is not very common. So it was, it was able to capture that. So that was interesting. Okay. Let's keep going. And then we have image segmentation. Image segmentation is when we divide an image in to multiple segments or regions to sort of like be able to work with it a little bit better. The goal is to simplify or change the representation of an image into something more meaningful and easier to analyze. I'll give you an example and then we're gonna go and play with it for like 2 minutes. I was working, again, this team that I was in, and we had someone who was working on old manuscripts. And you know how in like old Bibles, or was it like really old, they would have maybe drawings at the beginning of a chapter, and they were interested in those images. So through image segmentation, you can actually just extract those or divide the scan of the manuscript into like the text, and then that little piece that the person was interested in researching, and then that makes it easier. So let me just I'm gonna go to segment anything, which I should have open. Yes. Now I'm just gonna share again the link in the chat. Someone is asking if I can share. Yes. It's actually like you'll get the it's actually in the guide in the let me just go. They must have closed the guide. There's gonna be the link to the guide in the slides, so you'll have it. But you can also just Google stable diffusion in painting. That's what it's called. Let me just I'll just put it in the chat as well. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, and I put the segment anything link. I'm going to put it again just so that we don't get distracted. So this is a tool. Again, it's more of let's try, like ideally you would use this with coding and like with Python, but for us we're going to just try this. So we're going to try the demo. If you go to the link, you just click on the try the demo, and we read the okay. Now we can upload an image, or we can use an image that they have. For the sake of time today, I'm just going to use an image that they already provide for us. So we're going to do, I don't know, I'm going to do this one of the city. You can choose whatever you want. And then from here, I can either do it myself, just choose things to sort of like separate myself. For example, this. Now, if you have, depending on the phone you have, like you might realize that your phone also does it, because iPhone for sure does it. And I'm sure like Android does it as well. Or, and then you could just cut out the object. Or, let's go back to this. I can just do everything. And then it will scan sort of like the entire image, divide my segments, and then just cut out all the objects. And then just give me everything. Now, depending on what you're doing, this might be useful, might not be useful, but. And again, this is more just to try it out than actual research. You should probably, if you want to do research on this, you should probably like join with someone who knows Python and are able to do it in Python. And use like the GitHub that all of these tools have to allow you to do it. But for us today, we're just playing around with this tool. So this is image segmentation. It's something that we might use. I know that I use this sometimes on my phone to create stickers. So, you know, all very serious things. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do, and we're doing okay time-wise, is we're going to talk about image similarity, which is sort of like an area of research that some people are doing right now, which is using AI models to recognize similarities between text and images or between images themselves. And what these tools do is that they can identify images even without metadata. So we're very used to having metadata. So like we're having text with those images. So we will tag what it is about, but these tools are more about looking at the images and then trying to, using computer vision, discerning what they're about. So I'll show you first an example of, if I can find it. Sorry, I just need to get my notes for this, because they have a link in there, unless I forgot. Okay, I'll keep talking while I'm doing. So we're gonna do two things. I'm gonna show you this tool that's called iArt. Maybe I was so smart and actually did it the first time. Was I? Maybe I wasn't. Oh, that's so hard. Was in my notes. Anyway, it's okay. We're going to go to iArt. It's fine. I'll go do it from here. And I'm going to share. Oh, you went directly there. Lovely. I'm just going to share this one. So the iArt is a tool that kind of does this from text to images. It is a very specific set of images from museums and things like that. So the data set is a little bit funky. So you have a lot of artwork, but then you have a lot of like coins and things like that. So it's just things that have been digitized by museums. And I did a search for meme. Now, none of these images is tagged as a meme because they're all old images. But funnily enough, the system is able to learn what like a meme friendly thing is. So if we look at a lot of them, I would say they look very meme-like, right? So this could be a meme, this could be a meme, this could be a meme. And oh, it's taking a bit to load, so maybe I'll just like do it a little bit quicker. But because I've explored this before, which is kind of funny too, is that it starts with these images that look very meme-like. And then from there, if you keep going through the pages, then it gets really into political cartoons and propaganda, which again, like semantically, it kind of makes sense. And when we think about memes, but as I said, none of these images have been tagged as memes. It's just that the system is able to recognize that certain things look more meme-like and is able to do it. The other tool we're going to look into, I'm going to open it here, is 2D Clip, which was created by someone I know. This is so odd. There we go. Okay, and now let me just show this to you. There we go. So 2D Clip is a tool that is basically you put in a data set of images, and then from there it will cluster them into clusters by similarity. But then you can add things to modify those clusters. So let me show you. We're going to use something that is already existing here. So let's say the BA wallpapers. So the BA is the Victoria and Albert Museum. So it has clustered them by similarity. So if we look at this, we can see that, oh, we have all the flowers here. And then here we have sort of more geometrical shapes. And we have here lines, these images that are similar. So what it's done so far is it has looked for images that are similar. But with this tool, I can also add text and it will rearrange them by that text. So for example, I'm going to do blue for the X and red. And then I'm going to plot it. And then ideally, if I go towards the right, I will see images that are more blue. And if I go towards the top, I'm going to see images that are more red. And then ideally in this quadrant, I would see the intersection of blue and red. You can do this for a variety of images. I worked with this academic meme dataset, and depending on what kind of words I put in there, it will change what I do. You can do it with any dataset, and you can do it with any images that you want, words that you want, and you can put more than one word. You just like, so let's do, I'm just gonna change this. Do blue and green. So then it has changed, and here I have blue and green. So you can add more words should you want to. Oh my God, we're running out of time. So it's a nice and nifty tool to play with, to sort of like trying to analyze images. And then I'm gonna go to our last slide, which is when I'm gonna share something funny about image analysis. So can models make up their own language? And the answer is maybe. So basically what happened, and this is a paper, the paper is right here. This is an image from a paper where what had happened is they asked for two whales talking about food with subtitles. And then they entered the supposed text into that same model, and it gave them seafood. It actually happened to me that data set that I have for academic memes, the system is not meant to read, to do optical character recognition. It's not meant to read what's in the image, but the system learned. So when I did, when I was playing with 2D Clip and I'd say posters, lectures, things like that, it was actually reading the text in the memes, because the memes were pictures from The Office, from Spider-Man, from like, the one we saw the Ever Given, but it was actually able to read what was there and organize it. Now, can they create their own model, like their own language? Can the models create their own language? The answer is at this time, no. What they found is like sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, and it wasn't reliable enough to be able to say, yes, like the system has created its own language. But it was a bit scary nonetheless. Okay, so this has been all for me for today. I had a question that someone doesn't seem to be use Claude with a mobile number. I don't think I put a mobile number when I use it. I think I just use a Gmail account. I don't have put my number. So, but I would have to kind of go back and take a look at it, to be quite honest. I'm just gonna click on stop share. And we're gonna stop recording. And then we can look at more questions. Okay, and a tool that detects AI images, I feel like I had one. I can't remember right now. If I find it, I'll send it with the, when I send the slides and the recording, I'll include them there. Because I can't remember. Sometimes you can see a good tell from, or a good telltale from about image is that hands and feet and faces are really bad. So that's a good way to tell. But I think I might have one. I can't remember exactly what it's on, and I think it might be in Spanish if I'm not mistaken. But I'll some of the can create high resolution images. Usually you have to pay for that. So Midjourney or the Flex model, you have to have a higher yes, you have to sort of like get a higher level of membership to these tools. Today we all looked at free stuff. But if you look, for example, when we did the Crea, like that's pretty nice resolution. And I think that some of the tools, if you have the paid version, you can get a better image. Midjourney for sure. Things like that. In fact, there's a company in Spain that they provide images, but a lot of them are created like through AI and then they modify them. So Creative Cop, I don't think that some of this is Copilot create high res with their plan. I don't think so. Quite honestly, I don't think so. Yeah, there's a lot of tools out there. Again, this is a short workshop, so we can only show as much as we can. Oh, and someone wants the YouTube. Our YouTube channel is I think it's McGill. Let me just look it up real quick because I can't remember what it is. Yeah. It's DSH McGill, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll give you the URL right away, just so that you have it. Yeah, it's McGill Dish. There we go. So you are gonna get like once I upload everything, you will get an email from me with the slides and with the link to the YouTube chat, like to the YouTube video. But if you want to see what else we have there, then you can also check our channel. I just put the link in the chat. I'm so proud that we managed to stay on time, even with me forgetting to turn on my mic for a while. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I get to see some of you next week in our Love Data Week programming. It's going to be a really fun week. As I said, we have Eric speaking. A colleague and I are doing a session on dating apps and data. So that's also very exciting. So check out our program, and yeah, thank you so much for coming. I hope to see you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.